There are different factors that influence our motives for taking part in any form of collaboration and partnership. And each of these factors also have a different degree of impact. Let me break it down a bit for you. Scale Your Impact, as you know, is inspired by my PhD research. In my research, I am investigating how we can increase the influence of civil society organization to scale up the impact of their cross-sector partnerships. And I'm specifically focusing on cross-sector partnerships that are towards achieving development goals. To answer this question, I have developed an interrelated model which consists of four other models. Today, I will talk to you about Model 4, which is the most basic model in this composition and acts as a dependent variable for other models. I have dubbed this one Getting the Motives Right. This is the name of a book written by my supervisor, Professor Rob van Tulder, and is about the motives of international companies and their role in international corporate social responsibility. The starting point of my research is to understand and investigate the motives of civil society organizations to initiate, form, and participate in partnerships, whether it is cross-sector or not. Cross-sector partnerships are a 21st century collaborative paradigm. Over the last 60 years, since the introduction of sustainable development, different forms of partnerships have been explored and investigated, from combination of bilateral partnerships to trilateral ones. Due to this increase in interest for cross-sector partnerships, there is an increase in the management and policy literature on the subject. Despite the large volume of research on corporate or private sector motives for contributing to SDGs, there seems to be a gap in the literature, whether theoretical or empirical, on the specific motives of civil society organizations to take part in cross-sector partnerships. And we can divide the civil society organizations here, whether the ones who are based in a developed or donor country, or organizations that are set in developing or recipient country regarding to the donations available, to the subsidies available. Yeah. And we can divide civil society organizations either based on a developed, whether they are based in a developed country or a donor country, or based in a developing country, a recipient country. In the Dutch context, as well as internationally, CSOs, In the Dutch context, as well as internationally, partnership has become a base requirement for donors, such as the Dutch Ministry of Foreign Affairs, to consider proposals for funding. This has raised the question for me that to what extent civil society organizations are willing, as well as consciously, This has raised the question for me that to what extent civil society organizations are willingly, as well as consciously, opt for developing partnerships in their quest for contributing to SDGs. The question is, if forming partnership was not a requirement demanded by the institutional donor, would they have chosen to still be in a partnership? My quest is to firstly investigate whether there are other motives for civil society organizations to be part of a cross-sector partnership, and how they are influenced by their features and by sorry. Okay. Where was I? Okay. And by features, I want to refer to the combination of following items within a civil society organization. Their roles, like whether they are a mutual support, an advocacy, or a civil service delivery or partnering. I also refer to positioning, whether they are registered in a donor country or registered in a recipient country. I also refer to their structure, which could be flat, functional, divisional, matrix, or any other form. I also refer to their size, whether it's a small organization or medium size or a large one. Okay, and then the rest of it. I can't find my line. Secondly, I want to know how these motives align with the motives of the Dutch CSOs participating in Okay, there is no secondly. In the first one, we will take the firstly out, okay? Yes. More back. We need to go more back. More back. Yeah. Here, my quest. Here, firstly needs to be out. Okay. Yeah. My quest is to investigate Okay. Yeah. In Model 4, I have placed the motives as dependent variable, whereas the features, that are the roles, positioning, organizational structure, and size of the CSOs, as the independent variables. I also investigate the positioning of the CSOs in relation to their motives. By positioning, I refer to their relation towards the donor of their program. For instance, would the motives of a Dutch CSO be different from the motives of an Indian CSO, where both of them are receiving funding from the Dutch Ministry of Foreign Affairs to implement a project in India? Furthermore, under this segment, I also research the relation between the organizational structure of a CSO, as well as their size and their motives. For instance, would a small size CSO with a flat organizational structure have more interest in forming cross-sector partnership in comparison to a CSO with a medium size in comparison to a CSO, which is a medium-sized one and has a matrix structure. I also investigate how and to what extent does the type and the form of leadership in a CSO influence their motives for initiating, forming, and participating in cross-sector partnerships. Investigating the answer to this question can unveil whether there is a correlation between diversity and partnership. For example, would having more female employees at the decision-making level lead to more effective and efficient cross-sector partnerships? Moreover, this question can answer whether the type of organizational structure influences the possible forms of leadership and consideration for inclusion and diversity. For instance, would promotion of female employees to higher decision-making positions be facilitated or hindered by by flat organizational structure? With this information about the starting point of my PhD research, let's go to the last segment of this episode, which is about highlighting and sharing the linkages between different podcasts. All right. Okay.